By March 1900, Amir Abdurrahman Khan, in the reaction of the Hazara recruitment in British Indian Army, reacted in order to enlist at Khassadar force of Afghan forces, of whom a large proportion should be Hazaras. By July 4, 1900, at the same time, Russians has also enlisted about 1,000 Hazaras at Merv from Hazara exodus. Mr. Akbar Beg Hazara appointed commanding officer of Russian Hazara Frontier Force. These two Hazara forces on the Afghan frontier has created great anxiety to the Amir of Afghanistan. In the early years of Amir Habibullah Khan's reign, the recruitment of Hazaras in the British Indian Army further intensified. Several official correspondences were exchanged between the two countries on the issue, but the overall recruitment policy of the Indian government was not affected, although relations between the countries made it difficult to recruit Hazaras directly from the Hazarajat. By 26 May 1903, Amir Habibullah Khan ordered to Kandahar authority to increase the number of recruits from Hazaras to 1,000 men in the sappers and miners of Afghanistan, and promised to provide them the same pioneering equipment with higher ranks to the Hazaras as British government does. By 11 February 1904, Indian government sanctioned the admission of Hazara in the native army services, and by 1st October 1904, Indian government raised the 106th Hazara Pioneer in Quetta. 20th November 1904, in reaction, Amir Habibullah Khan has issued a proclamation for the Hazaras asking for their return to Afghanistan. In this proclamation, Amir promised land to the Hazaras in the vicinity of Kandahar. Amir also approached Hazara chiefs in Afghanistan to induce Hazaras to repatriate from British Indian territory. In the result of that proclamation, the considerable number of Hazara families returned to Afghanistan in the hope of lands, but unfortunately, the promise was not fulfilled by the Amir, and Hazaras again fled from Afghanistan to the neighboring countries. In the process of multiple migration, Hazaras badly suffered. The political situation between Afghanistan and British India had been further intensified over the Afghan border when Hazara Pioneer soldiers secretly rescuing Hazara women slaves from Afghan houses inside Afghanistan. The Afghan officials have always been persuaded Persians and Russian authorities to expel Hazaras from their territory. Political ping-pong continued between Afghanistan, Indian government and Persians over the presence of Hazaras under their patronage of British government until 1920. The issue has also been highlighted during the Missouri Conference in June 1920 in India between Afghan Foreign Minister Mahmood Tarzi and British Representative Sir Henry Dobbs, where Afghan and British delegates were under the leadership of Mahmood Tarzi, Afghan Foreign Minister, and Chief British Representative Sir Henry Dobbs. Afghan representative accused the British government instigating the Hazaras and other Afghan tribes like Mongols and the Mahmuds of Lalpura against the Amir. These underpin the position of Hazaras in Anglo-Afghan relations, but what was the relationship like with the Shia co-religionists to the west? The Hazaras and the relationship with Persia. Many Hazaras who lived in Khurasan, Persia also faced enormous political challenges during the great exodus of Hazaras from Afghan Hazarajat. The majority had lived in Khurasan. Those ex-servicemen who had been retired from Indian services were giving priority to settle down in Khurasan. They were also able to draw their pension from British consulate in Khurasan. Many of those ex-servicemen were re-employed in Persian frontier levies in Khurasan, Persia, in the Cordon of East Persia project. In Persia, Hazaras were called Berberi. Being a British subject, Hazaras or Berberis were victimized politically by the natives as well as Persian authority from time to time. By 1915, the Democrats, a political group of Khurasan, has openly opposed and challenged the presence of Hazaras in Khurasan being a British subject. By 1917, German counselor also approached the Hazaras of Khurasan to support German and Turkish cause and rise against British interest. During Jangali movement in 1918 in northeast Persia, 1,000 Jangali and Turkomans raided Gumbad-e Qabus. A portion of these attacked Hazaras being a British subject. On the other hand, frequently Afghan agents in Khurasan had been influenced by the Persian authorities to expel Hazaras from Persia. Particularly those Hazaras who lived in Sistan, Qaim, Birjan and Zahedan were faced deportation by the Persian government on the ground of status and identity as British subject. It is that question of identity to which we now turn. Identity, the Hazaras and the Pioneers. There are two aspects of the identity that emerge when we talk about the Hazara Pioneers. The first is their identity as Hazara people. This relates to aspects like culture and language and are things that set the community apart. The second is the identity of the pioneers as a military formation. Aspects like the uniform, insignia, flags, traditions, drill and training are all designed to emphasize the group as a cohesive unit above the individual. This is important because the pioneers were not just a cohesive force but a uniquely and identifiably Hazara one as well. This set it apart from all the other units in the Indian Army. The huge influx of Hazara exodus to the neighboring countries laid the foundation of culture and identity shift within Hazaras. Particularly during the military service and afterwards, gradual cultural and identity changes had occurred. Politics and identity issues were widely interplayed at all stages. Hazara soldiers, after enlistment in 106, Hazara Pioneer encountered British Indian military rules and regulations. Learning Urdu language, reading and writing in regimental school was a part of compulsory military education and promotion to the next rank. For example, the holder of first class certificates of Urdu reading and writing was awarded 2 rupees. The Urdu language was the basic source of communication between soldiers and British officers, which gradually adopted in the daily life of Hazaras in the later generations. Today we see that the Hazaragi language speaks in Pakistan are known Koitagi Hazaragi, which has influenced by Urdu, English and native languages and brought considerable changes. Hazara in other parts of the Pakistan like Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and interior Sindh speak a mixture Hazaragi and native language. Hazaras of Gilgit-Baltistan have almost lost their language and identity. Albeit the situation in the major cities of Pakistan is a bit different. Leisure and culture activities within 106 Hazara Pioneers had also brought considerable impact on the life of Hazaras. For example, Hazara Pioneer Band group afterwards became popular among the later generation of Hazaras. Today in Pakistan, Hazara Band is now one of the best bands in Pakistan. Even today, Scottish pipe band outfits are used as a Hazara band in Quetta, Pakistan. Hazaras were freely practicing their religion and culture. They had proper imam for their religious activities and preachings in the 106th Hazara Regiment. The regimental holidays were granted as follows: Muharram 5 days, Ramazan 3 days, Eid-e-Nowruz 3 days, Eid-e-Qurban 3 days, Eid-e-Mawlud 3 days, Eid-e-Ghadir 3 days, and Shab-e-Barat 2 days. Hazaras of Pakistan could preserve their Hazara identity, but the impact of the local languages and cultures are evident in their language and culture of Hazaras. In Persia, the Hazara identity and culture had been melting over time and overwhelmingly affected by local culture. In Persia, Hazaras, we have been known widely as Barbari, means wild. Later on, this title has been officially replaced by Khawari on the request of a Hazara elders in Mashhad, Janabe Akbari. About 50,000 Hazaras families lived in Khurasan during the 1920s. Hazaras have supported the modernization policy of Reza Shah Pahlavi and adopted Pahlavi hat. Today in Khurasan, old Hazaras who called them Khawari are completely adopted local culture and language, and they are all Iranian citizens. In the 1920s and onward, many ex-servicemen of Hazara Pioneers who lived in Sistan, Qain, Birjan and Sistan married with a local Persian woman. Later, by 1928-29, a huge status and identity issues raised to those Hazaras. Nor Afghan government, nor British, nor Persian government of Iran has accepted them as their national, and they were left in limbo for a long time. After the First World War, Hazara Pioneer soldiers were awarded 715 General Services medals. Those medals have remained unclaimed. These medals have been dispatched to the War Office London because those ex-soldiers could not be traced due to their lost identity. Hazaras in the diaspora. As we have seen in the example of the Hazara Pioneers, there have been many aspects of their formation that have been of interest, such as their history, politics, and identity. One last aspect I would like to consider is their role as Hazara in the diaspora. They spent many years away from their families and fought in many foreign lands. Many never returned to Hazarajat. Indeed, they also became pioneers of a different sort, starting new lives in new countries, learning new trade, new customs, and new languages. Thank you very much.